This week's episode, we talk about worship. Worship can be done in different ways for different people, and sometimes it can be disruptive to others. Find out more in this week's episode of the Journey podcast.
Welcome back to another episode, and today we are covering different worship styles like we just mentioned, but Ted is about to go over a bit more in detail.
So I guess before we get into it, I do want to ask you the question, Paul.
Yeah.
How do you worship? So what is a way that you connect best with God?
I think it's a lot of quiet time. And I also feel like I learn a lot and can apply a lot in Sabbath school, as well as through music. So I think that's my bit of a mix. Yeah, not just one sort of style, but a couple different ways. Yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
I think connecting with others is a really good way for me to worship. Like,
for sure,
spending quality time with like-minded people that really, that shares similar values and like have the same thought process as you. And so when it comes to, like what we like to call the Sabbath, so our day of rest, like you really, like it's a lot deeper than just kind of chilling out, talking nonsense. Like you actually have deep, insightful discussions. And it's like, wow, like that is definitely a spirit-led conversation.
Yeah. That's how I made my Sabbath school connection as well. Awesome, deep conversations.
Yeah. I also like to worship through playing music as well. So, I play drums. So that's how I like to express my worship and praise. Yeah. Some more conservative people might disagree with me, but hey, that's allowed. Let's leave it at that. You're allowed to disagree. But yeah, so as we kind of already mentioned, this week is about different types of worship or different types of ways that you can, spend quality time with God. And this idea came to me from a book by Gary Thomas, and it's called Sacred Pathways: Discover Your Soul's Path to God. I'm going to be honest with you, and you as well, Paul. I haven't actually read it. However, I kind of had discussions with people in the past about how I worship, and they sent me this PDF file, and it's the 9 sacred pathways is what they like to call it. And so there's 9 different types of ways people can worship. And in the book, Gary Thomas calls them temperaments, which I think is a very interesting way to kind of call it. Like, when I imagine temperament, it's like sometimes it's really like hyper, or sometimes it's really placid. And so I just like the way that he describes worship as a temperament, which I think is
what does
very
that
cool.
word actually mean? Because I feel like it's got a few different definitions. Well, I mean, if you don't know, that's fine.
Well, I mean, temperaments, there you go. This is something new for the audience. I don't actually know what temperament means. No.
Because I link it to like temperamental. That's my first thought. It's
a bit different. So so temperament, temporary is spelled different to temperaments.
Yes.
So it's temporary, temper, so ER.
Okay. Yes.
So it's different.
Yeah.
So temperament, the way I define it is, I guess, kind of what I already said already. How I see it as how one kind of expresses themselves and like how they act and stuff like that, or how a situation can be. So I said, hyper or relaxed or sometimes agitated or anxious. That's how I
see. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out kind of the titles, I put that in quotation marks, of what the temperaments are. And I want you to try and give me, I guess, what you think it might mean. Mm-hmm. Okay? So we're going to start with the first one, which is naturalist. So what do you think that means. You may have already looked at it from your notes, but that's okay.
Naturalist. So since we are talking about worship style, I'm going to go with the nature. So connecting with nature, which, yes, I'll admit I have briefly looked at the notes, but the rest will be probably a lot harder, to be honest. But I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah. So yeah, here it is. Love God best outdoors. These people worship in the midst of God's creation. They celebrate his majesty and discover spiritual truths through nature. Mm-hmm. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
When I first read that, I was like, it's something I do quite often. To be completely honest, I think even on like a Sabbath day, if I go out to the beach or go for a hike or something, I get sometimes distracted and I don't often quite like admire its beauty. So I can see how people will use nature, sounds a bit strange, as a form of worship. But I think for me, I think I get easily distracted from how awesome it is and like turn to whoever I'm with and talk about other things or things like that. So despite that, I still do it. I think that specifically isn't like a huge form of worship for me in particular.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start enjoying my surroundings a bit more.
Yeah. Well,
those are my thoughts.
I guess like there have been times, I don't know. I know earlier I said like I didn't mention this, but now that I like read it out loud, I definitely think that is one of my main, not like the main one, but that is a predominant form of worship that I do. However, I do agree with you when you say like you don't always appreciate it, like because like usually you're with friends, you're doing stuff, you're kind of preoccupied, so you don't really reflect on God's creation of nature. So it can be a bit like other things can kind of distract it. So what I do is like if I'm going to go for a hike and like purposely do it to worship or to be with God, I make sure I do it like on my own. So like I often do it, there's like this hiking trail that I go on that's quite close to my house, and so I'll go on that one so I can just be like alone and just with God and like just admiring his beauty.
That's good. That's awesome. Should do that more often.
So the second one, I think this is sensates. Sensates, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Sensates. What do you think that means?
Well, actually, no. I just had a light bulb moment. Sense.
Okay.
Using your senses.
Yeah. Okay. You're right on the money.
Sick.
Yeah. So, love God through their senses. These people worship through sensual experiences, sight, like art, sound, like music, smells, and more.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
like smells. How can you?
It's an interesting one. I guess it comes like similarly to the naturalist one, where maybe it's like smelling some sunflowers, like we have.
Okay. Yeah. No, that when you put it like that,
admiring
makes more sense.
Yeah, admiring its beauty.
Yeah.
And I guess visually, it's the same thing. That's probably how I see it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I'm assuming that doesn't necessarily mean like all senses. So I get like what we were talking about, like music. I would say that is a form of work. Like if we say that we worship through music, then I would say that like we would fall under this umbrella of senses. I hope that's how you pronounce it.
Well, if it's a way to describe us, like, I think that makes sense. Senses, like you're a sensit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
All right. So this next one, this will be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Traditionalist. So what do you think that means?
So I would say that it probably means going by the traditional forms of, I guess, theology, and I guess just studying his word as a form of worship. I'm going to guess. I don't know. Is that on the right
Well, yeah,
lines?
you're definitely on the right track.
Yeah.
So it's so it says love God through religious ritual. Oh, okay, sorry. Traditionalists love God through religious rituals and symbols. These people worship through traditions and sacraments of the church. They believe structure, repetition, and rigidity, like weekly liturgy, leads to deeper understanding of God and faith. So I would actually say that like weekly liturgy, I would say going to church weekly.
Yep. Yep.
That's kind of how I put it in our context.
Yeah. Okay.
So what are your thoughts on that?
That's an interesting one because it's sort of implying that whatever you do at church will deepen your I'll take a step back. Even if you go to church weekly, that's already a form of worship, despite what you actually do at church. And I know if you're coming to church, you're probably enjoying the worship service and stuff, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're coming in.
Oh, okay.
You're not
I see where you're going with this now.
It's very broad, and obviously, I think it depends how you interpret it.
I would say if you fall under this umbrella of a traditionalist, I would say that you would enjoy that. I think that's the purpose of it.
True.
Structure, repetition. You enjoy the how church is run and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I was like, obviously, if you're coming, you're here for a reason.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of makes sense. I think I'm just not really vibing with that particular one all that much. I'm just like, it's an interesting one because it's just very broad and of course, I sound pretty similar to, I come to church most weeks, enjoy the, traditions of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in particular. But I think, I guess I'm just focusing on my personal connection more than just the church itself, if that makes sense.
No, that's fair enough.
What do you reckon?
I feel like, we'll get into a bit more of it later, but
okay.
I think what do I think? I think that there is definitely a place for these people, and I think you'll find it more common in probably older people. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think I say that by I think the type of worship that was done before we were even born, so the 70s, 80s, was very similar to this style. So it was very similar to I don't want to I don't really want to link these two words because I think they're still different things, but it does come across as a more conservative way of worshipping. And so the Seventh-day Adventist Church specifically, I would say older people would enjoy that type of worship more, or they would say that I'm a traditionalist.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm keen to get into that one more a bit later.
Yes.
So, as the next one, number 4, is ascetics. So not aesthetics, ascetics. So it's ASCETICS.
I'm just going to have a quick check of the spelling as well.
He's cheating.
No, I'm focusing on the word. Okay, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Except I have no clue. Aesthetics.
To be honest, I wouldn't even know what to say for this.
No clue what the word is.
So do you want me to just read it out?
Pass, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So ascetics love God in solitude and simplicity. These people worship through prayer and quiet time and the absence of all outside noise and distraction.
I used the same word earlier, quiet time, or same phrase, in my form of worship. I'll just may as well go a bit deeper. I like to read some theological books like others, and usually do that alone, as well as YouVersion Bible plans, prayer. I think I find that's a big one for me for worship. How about yourself?
I don't know. I think just because of my extroverted nature, I don't necessarily wouldn't choose this as my well, I wouldn't choose this as one of my main ways of worship.
Yeah.
However, yeah, I think there's a place for all of it, and I totally respect people that do choose to worship in this way. I guess the thing that kind of really I don't sit with, I'm just no, that's not me personally, is the just all outside noise and distraction. I find that not that I try to distract or am often distracted, but it's just yeah, I don't know. It's just not, I guess that's just quiet time isn't really quiet. I wouldn't describe to associate with me. Yeah. I wouldn't use quiet to associate with me is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, it's funny you bring that up because I'm extroverted as well, but I think when I am trying to read my Bible plans, it usually is by yourself, and I even try to find some spare time at work if I didn't catch up in the morning to do it, and I find myself distracted very easily. So I think being turning off noise and not, even though the Bible plan's usually on your phone, it's so easy to check a message when you've already opened the Bible app, it's a message comes through. So I even sometimes do it on my desktop PC instead of my phone, because my phone's more distracting. Yeah. So yeah, I try to eliminate, for me personally, the distractions.
No, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own, personal time with God every morning. But I still wouldn't absence of all outside noise and distractions. I would do that, but I still wouldn't class myself as essential.
Yep.
I believe that devotion time is essential, but I guess this specifically, I don't know.
Yeah.
We can talk about it a bit more later. So, number 5, activists. I feel like this one might be a bit easy to answer.
Yes. So I feel like it's the same definition as it would be in the dictionary. That they, I guess, I don't know if protest is the right word, but fight for our rights as Christians, while upholding God's word and theology and things like that. I think is probably it.
Yep, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Awesome.
So it says, activists love God through confrontation, fighting for godly principles and values. They worship through their dedication to and participation in God's truth about social and evangelistic causes.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think I more so have an issue with the way that it's written.
Yeah.
Than probably what it actually means. I'm assuming it doesn't necessarily mean confrontation, literal confrontation.
Yeah.
Because that just sounds like you're arguing with someone.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not that Jesus didn't argue. Jesus, Jesus went through the temple, started whipping people. So, I mean, yeah. What do you think?
I think it's similar to the. It's reminding me of the earlier one. What's it called? Traditionalism. What was it called? Traditionalists. Yeah. In the fact that it's kind of like what we do as Christians, but I don't know if it falls under the umbrella of worship. I'm thinking along the lines of it's respecting respecting God rather than worshipping.
Okay.
It almost, not to offend the author, but it almost sounds like it's reaching for another worship form. Okay. In my opinion, it's a bit broad for me, to classify it as a form of worship.
Well, I guess if I were to make an example up on the spot, which I'm going to do right now, there are people who are trying to share the word of God in areas and places that do not allow such things.
Yeah.
And so when I read that, when I think of activists, I think of, people going in places where Christianity isn't necessarily allowed, and they're fighting to share the word.
True.
That's how I kind of read it. And I think the word confrontation really does kind of like throw off that idea.
Yeah.
But that's how I see it.
No, that's a good example. However, is sharing the word and worshipping the same thing?
So sharing the word and what it's sharing the word and worshipping.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we should all be sharing the word.
Yeah.
I think that's our goal as Christians. But I think, sometimes, people feel a deeper connection with God when they may be feeling a deeper connection with God when they are doing things like going out into countries where it's not allowed and just stepping out in faith and sharing the word. Like, I think that's how I kind of see it. Like, that's how they connect with God. They're like, God, I'm putting my trust in you.
Yeah, true.
Like, that you will, whatever happens, like these
Keep
people,
me safe
these
as
people
well.
get the word of God.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It puts you into situations where you need to really trust God.
It's for the thrill.
No, okay.
Extreme evangelism, baby.
That's actually kind of making more sense now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not a huge fan of that description, but I think I know, kind of reading between the lines, makes a bit more sense.
True.
So, next one, caregivers. Also a pretty easy one.
Yep. So maybe not the same as before where it's worshipping, but it's sort of, caring for others, whether they're in the church or not. I guess just showing God's love as a form of worship. Yeah.
So caregivers love God by serving others and worship by giving of themselves. They may nurse the sick and disabled, adopt a prisoner, and donate time at a shelter, etc. Adopt a prisoner, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting example
Very
they put
specific.
in there. But yeah, I think this is a legitimate form of worship. Like, putting it in my own context, as a drummer, as a musician, like, we may be playing songs that I don't enjoy playing, but the worship doesn't come from me playing as loud and as good as I can. It's playing the best that I can that suits the music so then others can worship. So I've always found that if I'm playing a song that I don't necessarily enjoy, but the congregation are enjoying it, then I'm worshiping God through that. Like, I'm serving so that others can worship.
Yeah.
And I think that is the job as a musician. If you're playing in any church music, that is your job as a musician. Like, it's not about you on stage playing the songs that you want to play.
Yeah.
You're playing music that that the congregation wants, that the congregation can worship to.
That totally makes sense.
So that's how I kind of it's a bit different, but nursing and donating time, I think that is a very valid form of worship in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think I haven't really made the strong connection between worship and, I guess I'm noticing a trend with these ones where it's kind of like, I guess, being more like Jesus. I guess that really is like a form of worship because you're becoming more like him. And I guess it has a roll-on effect for others and things like that. I guess my idea of worship was just the more traditional ways.
Well, I mean,
I think my idea of traditional was different as well. It is what it is for me. Like I said at the start, nature and quiet time and singing is what I thought, I guess, the definition of worship was. But it does definitely go broader, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to a degree, everyone can worship through all of these. We're not done, but I think there's definitely a lot of ways. I mean, in every single way, I put myself in these situations and I think, yes, I can worship God in these situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So the next one, which sounds pretty similar to me, is enthusiasts.
Okay.
So what do you think that means?
My immediate thought was enthusiastic sharers of the gospel.
Okay, no, I'm not that enthusiastic. I should be enthusiastic, but not that enthusiastic. So, enthusiasts love God through mystery and celebration. These people worship with outward displays of passion and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
They love God with gusto.
Oh. Yeah, sorry, I laughed because when you said mystery and celebration, I'm like, it doesn't sound like it mixes quite well. Yeah, okay, so that one was basically saying like enthusiastically. Sorry, could you read it again?
So, love God through mystery and celebration. These people worship with outward displays of passion and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
They love God with gusto.
Yeah, that's cool. So, my immediate thought when you said that was like enthusiastic singers.
Okay.
I'm kind of confused as to what exactly it's talking about.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna say this person's name just out of privacy, but you know her very well as well. Oh, I mean, we stayed at her house in New South Wales. You brought her to Adelaide to share her share.
Yeah.
I would say that she is like
Passionate.
definitely an enthusiast. Like she is the fun. Like I admire her enthusiasm. It's so awesome. And like there is this like she'll just be out to dinner, just hanging out with friends, and she's like, I can really feel God in this situation. And she just like glorifies God even when people are just out for dinner like in the middle of the week, and she's just like, I just feel God in this situation. Like, you know, she feels community, and she's like just always like, you know, displaying passion and enthusiasm. Like, and it's such an awesome way to worship.
Yeah, that's an awesome.
And I really admire her for being that type of person that she is.
Yeah.
But
that's an awesome example.
Yeah, no, it's so, yeah. I really like that one. I'm probably not, I wouldn't say that I am an enthusiast.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely parts of my spiritual life that I am enthusiastic about. But yeah, I guess, you know, people worship with outward displays of passion. Yeah. I guess I don't really do that very often. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's depending on the type of person that you are.
Yeah. That example make it way more sense to me. Like just passionate people. Like that makes total sense.
No, I'll let you finish.
I think, in a sense, we should all be kind of aiming for that, because I feel like if we have Jesus more at the center of our lives, we become more like that in a way. Because you and me are both extroverted, so I think we can just be more Christ-like, and then therefore more enthusiastic.
Yeah. Well, I think like when I read it, it's like, you know, when they display their worship, it's not necessarily more Christ-like in a way, but it's just very vibrant, I think is the best way to describe it.
True.
And I feel like more extroverted people wouldn't usually be enthusiasts, but I definitely think that they would show outward displays of passion.
Yeah.
But it would just be done differently.
Yeah. They wouldn't classify that as their main all the time. Yep.
So, next one. Number 8. Contemplatives.
Ooh. Well, that reminds me of the early one, the quiet time sort of one. Contemplators. I guess it's probably similar. Like I would say quiet time to reflect on what they've studied or what they've spoken about with other people. Is that along the right lines? I think that's all I have to say about that one, really.
You're sort of on the same path, but I think it's a bit different. So, contemplatives love God through adoration. These people worship by their attentiveness, deep love, and intimacy. They have an active prayer life.
Okay.
So, how I read it is, they like I imagine them being very deep thinkers.
Yeah.
Very deep, like they may not say much, but when they do talk, it's like very profound.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of imagine this thing.
That's
or
true.
this type of this what did he call it? Temperament?
Yeah. Well, I could be wrong, but I think that one might go hand in hand with the other one, the quiet time one, because I think people will often, those people might, I could be wrong, but they might spend time on their own a lot more to actually come up with those profound statements, for example, in a Sabbath school class or something. No, I think I probably don't. I'm probably not that kind of person. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I almost kind of see these pathways as somewhat of a spectrum, if that makes sense. Like, you know, if you're one thing, you do have the traits of another pathway, if that makes sense, kind of what you were saying.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that
yeah.
one, I think contemplatives is a very cool one that I probably don't really worship. Like, that's probably not a way that I worship, but I think it's very cool.
Yeah.
And so the last one, intellectuals.
Okay. Intellectuals. Again, it sounds similar to the last one, but I guess the slight difference there might be they focus on literature a lot. That's all I can think of, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty much just like the word. Okay. So I would say that you're right. So intellectuals love God with their mind, and their hearts are opened up to a new attentiveness when they understand something new about God. These people worship through intense study, apologetics, and intellectual pursuits of their faith.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely. Like, I reckon that there's a few people that I know that are very, like, they love to study the Bible to find new meanings, and I think we should all be studying the Bible. But like, yeah, that is like, they find out something new and they just like thrive off it, which I think is like super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, that's all 9 of them.
That is all 9. I think, like, I made a note here, and it's also in this PDF as well. Mm-hmm. So like, you're never just one type of temperament. So here it says, we are a mixture. We rarely rely on a single approach or temperament to connect with God every time. We are more likely to be a mix of several, which I think is very true. So what ones would you say that you are? Or would you say that you align with your personality and the way that you worship?
So, these are very specific. So I think the strongest one, despite my personality type, would be number 4 from what I can see at the moment.
Which is?
Ascetics, love God in solitude and simplicity. Worshipping through prayer and quiet time, and absence of all outside noise and distraction. And yeah, I think from this list, that's probably the strongest one, surprisingly. I've surprised myself. But yeah, I do love spending time outdoors. But like I said at the beginning, like, it's not, I quite often don't actually feel like I'm worshipping God like that. I don't think I see myself as much of the other ones. I think I want to lean towards number 6 as well, caregivers. Love God by serving. I do try to get involved with as many things as I possibly can. But I don't see, I don't think I link very strongly with the other ones. What about you?
No, that's fair enough. I think, like, it's best not to read these as like set in concrete. I think they're just, they're guidelines. Yeah. So, or they're not really guidelines, but it's just like very brief overview of what these things mean. Oh, actually, sorry. While you were saying that, it made me think of what I said at the beginning. Worshipping through music. Yeah. I guess that might link to the sensits one. Yeah. Sounds. So music. Yeah. Yeah. For me, at the start, I did say naturalists, but the more we kind of discuss it, I would say that, sensits is one of them. I really do enjoy. To be honest, I also would perceive myself as a traditionalist, which may be surprising to some people, and I'll talk about more about it in a second. And then for a third one, either like a little bit of enthusiasts, but probably not like the extreme as to what we were talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then, and caregivers, because I think caregivers isn't just about like taking care of someone.
Yeah.
But I think it also falls under the umbrella of like just giving time.
Yes.
Like, I really enjoy, giving time by helping set up for, our Friday night connects or our youth socials that we run. Like, I would say that I would count that as a caregiver because I'm donating time to, help others connect with God.
Yep. I fully agree. Yeah.
And also like through playing music as well.
Yep.
So, are there any that you might, or that you think you have a problem with? Or are there any where you're just like, I don't really understand, or I don't fully agree with, and you can disagree with me? You're allowed to do that.
Yes, for sure. We don't do that much.
No,
for sure.
different things mean different, or things mean differently to other people. So
yeah. Well, I think I mentioned it earlier, but the traditionalists one, I kind of like, I see what it's saying, where it's like through the repetition structure and weekly liturgy. But I think it says that all leads to deeper, in the description it says leads to deeper understanding of God and faith. I think it does, but at the same time, I think your personal walk with God might be two different things. I
see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
That I'm struggling to find the connection of how that exactly leads to deeper understanding of God and faith. Like, yeah, of course, like you come to church and listen to like sermons and you participate in Bible studies, and that does lead to a deeper understanding. But I feel like maybe it's just a personal thing, but like application, I find application very important.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm like sort of struggling with that one a little bit, because I feel like I prioritize application further up on the list, maybe. Yeah.
Well, so, I think there's a lot of, like, within these, if you were to find extreme circumstances, then I think there can be flaws in them. And so if you were to put an extreme scenario on a traditionalist, then you could easily say that this person is very hung up on, what time church is, what type of music is played, how long the sermon is, and they get very caught up in like the legalistic side of everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than just like, letting the Holy Spirit in the space that you're in, in the space of worship, you're just too focused on making sure everything's right.
Yeah.
And one, I guess, like, that can stem from, the Old Testament.
For sure.
To ask for forgiveness of your sins, like you had to burn a sacrifice, and there was very specific things that you had to do. And even on the Sabbath day, you could only walk a certain amount of steps, in the days of the Israelites, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so this legalistic viewpoint can be, can give a stigma to traditionalists. But for me personally, like, I wouldn't say that I'm legalistic, but I would say that I connect better with God by doing specific things, whether it be in church or I read in the Bible. And like that helps me have a deeper connection with God. And I feel like I'm worried that I said a lot just then without actually having any deep meaning. But I guess like an issue that I have with traditionalists, like as someone who identifies as a traditionalist, like I often tell people like if I'm trying to worship God, then I'm going to do A, B, and C. And then they go, but that's legalistic. And then I go, no, I believe that like if it says it in the Bible and we really want to strive and connect with God on a deeper level and we begin to grow, these things A, B, and C, they may not be the most enjoyable thing in the world, but they naturally come when you grow deeper with God.
Yep.
So there was I had a discussion with people, and I think, as Seventh-day Adventists, Sabbath observance, and I guess not so much, but diet can be a part of it as well. People go, but if you're focusing too much on how you worship, then that's like too legalistic. Like if like some people play sport on the Sabbath, and some people believe that playing sport on the Sabbath is bad. And so when I have actively said that I have given up playing competitive sports on the Sabbath to worship God, some people have mentioned to me that they think that is too, I lost the word, too
legalistic.
Not legalistic, but also conservative.
Yeah.
Conservative is the word I'm looking for. And it's like, well, no, my relationship with God has grown to a point where I realize that playing on the Sabbath is a hindrance to my work, to how I worship and my connection with God.
Yeah. 100% see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so I definitely see where people are coming from when they think that traditionalists are stuck, or where they think traditionalists are very legalistic. But as I said, I consider myself a traditionalist, but I don't see myself as legalistic.
Okay. So if you were to define traditionalist for yourself, then how would you describe yourself in that regard?
Like going to church. I think, like, I know that church is not confined to four walls. So I know that church isn't a building, but I find that going to church, so coming to this church building, helps me worship. Like this is a day that I've set apart from every other, so that I can come to church, so I can come to this building and be with a community of people that are similar to me in mind, and so that I can worship with them. Yeah. And one that I know I'm convicted to do, and I struggle to do it, but even like communion, like foot washing, like it's something I struggle with, but I think there's a lot of value behind it, and there's a lot of deep meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And so like that's something as well I think is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see how you were saying before, people would describe what you're saying as legalistic, but there definitely is like the deeper meaning behind most of the, I guess, things people would describe as legalistic. However, you also mentioned earlier, like the fact that some people might get a bit aggravated at the time of worship or how long a sermon goes for. Personally, I would think that, I don't know if that deepens your relationship.
Yeah, that's definitely just people just being butthurt. That's like the only way I can describe it. They're just some people just need to get over some things.
100%.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Another aspect of traditionalists, I think, align with it would be tithes as well. I think they would worship tithes and offering. Sorry. So like giving money and like giving it to God and being like, God, you put this where you want it to go. I think that also would fall under the umbrella of a traditionalist. Yep,
for sure. Yeah, well, in that respect, I think I would also consider myself a traditionalist. I think the definition I first understood was rigidity. I think that was the big thing that stood out to me. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's super valuable to me, but I think I guess, traditions of the church is what helps me grow my understanding and, a deeper connection with deeper connection and relationship with God. So, for sure.
But yeah, like as I said, earlier. Actually, no, I didn't say this. Never mind. I thought it. I thunked it. Like being a traditionalist doesn't necessarily mean that you only worship or you only worship or you only go to church on the Sabbath or on the Saturday. Like as Seventh-day Adventists, we go to church on the Saturday.
Yeah.
So, being a traditionalist does not confine you to being at church on a Saturday. I think, life groups, house churches, that we have house church on Friday night at Morphettvale, which is a bit different to just, coming to a church building. It's a very different form of worship, but, you can still be a traditionalist, I feel like, in those circumstances as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Are there any other that you want to discuss that you're just like not too confident in?
I think earlier the activists one, I was like, well, is that a form of worship?
Yeah.
But I do, after that discussion, I do see the I guess point of it. I think some of them are pretty similar. I think contemplators and intellectuals and ascetics might link together. But if they're being specific, then that makes sense. Like they're different in their own regard in slight ways. But I think the rest make quite a lot of sense. Even though I think I would handpick a few and name them as like a part of me. That's the way I worship. But I think I'm pretty happy with the rest.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, even though I kind of gave another, I added a bit more information onto activists, I still think I find it a bit of an issue. Like confrontation. Like the word just doesn't necessarily sit well with me when you're describing worship, which... I mean, it's not a word that you would associate with worship. In my eyes. However, there are Jesus, like I said, he still fought for what was right. Like he still got angry at injustice.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I just thought of two different meanings for confrontation and confronting. I was like, well. A worship could be confronting for you personally, but it's a different meaning. It's a different meaning.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe, is that what it says there?
It means like confrontation,
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, no. It does say that. Love God through confrontation under activists. Maybe they actually are referring to a slightly different... Oh, no, they're not, because they're talking about, I guess... talking to people, fighting for godly principles and values is the next line. So I think...
But could that, I think where, if you were to come across an extreme scenario of this, you could literally have someone who's a strong activist in your church, and then you have someone who that worships in a way that they don't think is valid. And then that person would then confront... This activist would then confront the other person. Yes. And that's kind of where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you would like to think that no one would do it. But I mean, I think in all extreme cases, it's just like, there can be flaws. And I think that's a flaw in the activist pathway that doesn't quite sit well with me.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that being an activist is an illegitimate form of worship, but I'm saying that is something that I don't think I possess. Especially considering that I'm not a confrontational person.
Yeah.
If someone upsets me, I'm like, oh no, it's fine, forget about it. But on the inside, I'm burning in anger.
Oof. Well, that discussion made me spark a question for you. Do you think worship styles are adapting and changing over time?
Yeah, 100%. I was actually going to make a point this book came out in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, because you were saying like, I don't really know how that's worship. And I think that's because of, styles of worship has changed. And so I'm like thinking of how this can be applied to our context.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about when you said an activist might come up to you after a worship service or something and confront you over something you did. And I was wondering, in a couple of years from now, maybe even longer, like a decade or two, would there be something that people would do, for example, in a church service that would make people upset? I wonder if it's actually constantly evolving in that regard.
Well, I mean, think about it like, I don't want to put a bad light on Seventh-day Adventism, but I mean, for a very long time, and even still to this day, women are not allowed to be ordained.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have an issue with that.
Yeah.
And that is a very, very outdated ideology or ruling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean...
Yeah, no, I agree as well. Yeah.
Like, Seventh-day Adventism was built off a woman, essentially. Like Ellen White.
Yep.
And so it's very, like, that frustrates me. And
yeah.
I would say I would consider myself as a traditionalist, and that frustrates me. And so I guess in that respect, I could be considered an activist. Because
there you go.
Yeah, I believe that to be an injustice.
For sure.
And I don't know. I don't really know too much about the general conference that they have. But I definitely, there's definitely things where I'm just like,
yeah,
don't know how I feel about that. And that's in my own denomination.
Yeah, no, I agree. In with that specific discussion, I've had conversations with people who have heard sermons about the topic and they've made some very interesting points, like links. I'm going to say like they're reaching for like reasons. So I'm just like, this doesn't make sense for me. And I used to be on the fence, and I've decided for myself that it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, I can't remember what book it is exactly, but I mean, Paul writes in the New Testament that he doesn't let women teach, I think is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very contextual of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, women weren't educated then.
Yep.
So that's
For
probably
sure.
the main reason why, because they just didn't have the knowledge that the men of the time had.
Yeah.
But today, men and women can study the same thing at the same time in the same place.
Yeah.
And so women are equally qualified to men in that regard.
Yep. Yeah. I think quite often Seventh-day Adventist Church, with those kinds of issues, won't fully delve into context a lot of the time. And maybe it's just different points of view is what it is. But I think a lot of the problems that the church has can be solved with context.
Yeah.
I had another example, but I lost it. But that's basically what I'm trying to say. Like, context is super important with those kind of issues.
Well, I mean, I've come across women that don't think women pastors should be ordained, which I think I was like so shocked when I heard that. I was like, what? You're a woman? Which I guess is a bit sexist of me, possibly. And I apologize. But yeah, some of their thoughts behind it was like, well, women are more emotional. And so sometimes their emotion can get carried away from the message, or can kind of interrupt the message that they're trying to speak. Or sometimes their emotions will get in front of or get in the way of I forgot what I was trying to say. Like, would get in the way of, other things within the church. Like, maybe someone would say, hey, I didn't appreciate what you said in this sermon.
Yeah.
And they think, oh, because she's a woman, she cannot control criticism.
Yeah, no. I definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Agree with you there.
It's yeah. There's a lot of different different ideas when it comes to that, or pretty much two, for and against. But Yeah, I'm definitely for women's ordination, but
Yeah.
I think maybe that's something we need to talk about another time.
Can I just say as well?
Oh no, I'm keen to keep discussing.
We've had comments earlier off air with people who are like, he knows I'm bringing up. People saying your podcast is very masculine. You don't have enough female interviews and guests, which I agree with. Where I think we can do a better job.
But we don't hate women.
No.
Please don't think we hate women.
And there definitely will be a place where we can have some women guests. My other example was house church with the context and stuff. Because there was some, I guess, for lack of a better word, backlash with the idea of house church. But if we look back to how Adventism started, it was very innovative in the way we spread the gospel. And I think house church is exactly that. And so the main reason people were against it was because, it's not... Oh, there's a few reasons, but one of them was like, it's not on Saturday, or, it's moving away from the church, like building, I guess, and in one way, traditionalism. But I think the way Adventism started was very innovative with the way we got people to, I guess, start worshiping God for themselves. So,
yeah, I do want to add on to that. What was I going to say? I think that for a long time, the church was just focusing on retention, which when you look at Cale Dewall's Mission Shift book, he talks. Oh no, sorry, not that. Hero Maker. That talks about, there's different levels of church, and level 1 is retention, and so that's like trying to keep the people that are about to leave in the church. And so the Seventh Adventist Church specifically was really focusing on that for a long time, and so therefore, church became a very you just came to observe and you left. But now I definitely think there's a shift, a mission shift. I definitely think there is a change coming where the church is like, yes, we are this is a corporation, but we also need you, the congregation, to go out, and you need to show other people Jesus. Like in Ephesians 5, Paul writes that God gave specific people to the church. So there was teachers, pastors. I can't remember the exact word that they gave it, like pastors, and then something else. I think it was 5 in total or something like that. But there are specific jobs in the church that need to be in a corporate building like this. But then there's also, people like you and me that need to go out and do things like house church or life groups, or just showing people Jesus.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Cool.
But yes.
Good discussion.
Very good. One last thing from this before we wrap up. There's a note here saying temperaments change. Spiritual temperaments evolve over time. Much like couples love each other differently over the course of a marriage, we are likely to find different ways to connect with God during our lifetime. And I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's reminding me of the love languages, or things like Myers-Briggs, things like that. We evolve in that way, and we evolve in worship styles as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me 3 years ago if I was a traditionalist, I would have been like, no. But that's probably because I was like, I want to worship differently to rebel. Like an absolute loser. But yeah.
You said it.
All right. Well, yeah.
Joking.
Very good discussion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Oh, that was cute.
We're meant to stop saying
Yes, we are. Sorry. I apologize.
So to end it there, I guess we'll sign off.
He said it again.
I'm sorry, I said it a lot. We'll sign off with the ways to get in touch with us. So contact mvcyouth@gmail.com is the whole thing. Morphett Vale Youth MVY on Facebook and MVC Youth on Instagram are all the ways you can hit us up or follow what we post.
Yeah, and we're very interested in hearing your feedback on well, I would be very interested in, I'm assuming Paul is as well, on hearing feedback as to like what are your ways of worshiping, or is there anything that you want to challenge us on, or is there anything that you agree with? Like, because we're really interested to hear thoughts, especially on ways that you may worship as well. Because I know, like, I'm sure all 9, like millions of people fill out all 9 of these different types, and we only really focused on a few of them because they really mainly apply to us. Yep,
for sure. So we really actually love you guys reaching out to us because it's actually really interesting. Like the completely different perspectives we get.
Yeah,
which
definitely
is happening like almost every episode. So I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thanks. See ya.
See ya.